Hey there everybody, and welcome back to the Satisfied Watch Collector podcast. I am James, and today we're going to be talking about the best first watch for you. And I'm all about you getting out of watches whatever you want to get out of watches. I want you to know and love the watches you have so that you can be a satisfied watch collector. Now, if you do enjoy this type of content, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. I generally add new videos every week. So let's jump into our topic today. Again, we're talking about the best first watch for you. And there are a couple things that I think make it what is going to be your best first watch. And I think the number one thing on my list as I was kind of preparing for this segment is the one that you get the most enamored about. I think back to when I was first looking at some of my first luxury watches, and I remember looking at a lot of different ones. Again, I think I mentioned that I didn't really like Rolex. Like, I just didn't find Rolex attractive. And I always kind of wondered, like, I've heard that people wear these. I know that they're like a prestigious brand, all these sorts of things, but there was nothing that really sparked my attention, caught my eye. It always just kind of seemed like, okay, yeah, people wear them. Some people like them. It's not really my thing. And I liked Movado, and there were just other brands that I thought were interesting, right? And as I was getting into the luxury space, I stumbled across the Rose Gold Chocolate Dial Daytona. I've talked about this one before because it is one of my absolute favorites. And at the time, it was just way out of my price range, and it didn't necessarily have the functionality that I would use most. It was kind of like, I don't know what I'm going to use a chronograph for, don't know why I would need this. And so then I stumbled onto the Sky Dweller, and I was absolutely enamored with the Sky Dweller. And there were a lot of reasons for that. Tiger Woods, I grew up with golf, and Tiger Woods, I remember kind of on a subconscious level almost, which is weird to me. Way back when it launched in 2012, Tiger Woods had done a Sky Dweller ad, basically, for the first version of it. And, I'm not a world traveler by any means back then, maybe a little bit now, but not like crazy internationally or anything like that. But that was the watch that I first got enamored with, and it was actually a lot more had to do with the aesthetics and the complexity of the watch. The Caliber 9001, like one of the most complex movements that Rolex has ever made, along with the Yachtmaster 2. So I remember being really enamored with that watch, and I think that's a really key component of when you're thinking about what is the first watch that I want to own in this space? Because who knows? I mean, maybe you've got, something inexpensive. Maybe you have a Movado like I had. I had a good friend of mine that had a Tissot, and that was kind of his, first watch that he owned. My very first watch was a Fossil. I've talked about that. So, like, you may already have some type of watch, and maybe you have some awareness of the luxury space. Maybe you're brand new and you're coming into this video like, what the heck am I? I don't know what I don't know yet, and that's okay. And my goal is to lay out, how do you figure out what the best first watch is? And that's why I do think what you're interested in, what you like, after you've done some exploring of different brands, and more likely than not, if you're like most of us, I think it's probably going to happen online, because you're probably not, unless you're like a really serious buyer at this point and you're like pounding the streets to hit up watch boutiques, which I don't think is the case, but it could be. You're probably not going to have a lot of awareness around what luxury watches you may want to look at. So yeah, I would say look at a lot of pictures online first and just get an idea of like the aesthetic aspect of what you're looking for. Because from there, then you go into kind of the second criteria, which is a really probably equally important one, which is, what's the best first watch for you? Well, it's the one you can afford. So these things are expensive, y'all, and there's no qualms about them. Even buying a nice Citizen, I've been looking at a ton of those. You're talking $2,000 to $3,000. And obviously everyone's going to have a different level of financial means. And you've got to make sure that it fits into what you can afford and it fits into your financial goals. The reason I talk about those things is because I'm passionate about them. Like, I am not here, one, to be the person who has the nicest watch collection and is super broke, right? Like, that's not the goal. And I don't want that for any of you. Like, I want you all to be prosperous and successful. And I've said before, like, the fact that you're even getting to the point in this conversation where you're looking at these things tells me you're probably in a pretty good spot. So that's kind of the second criteria. So what's the best first watch? It's the one you get enamored about. Like, what do you just absolutely love? If you can see it in person, great. But more likely than not, you're going to be looking online. So or watching videos. So what are you getting enamored about? Then you've got to be able to afford it. And then the last one is the one that you have access to, because if you don't have access to a watch, even if you really like it and you could afford it, if you don't have access to it, that's going to be tough. Now, with the internet, obviously you have things like Chrono24. I'm honestly a big proponent of those types of watch marketplaces. It's how I bought several of my watches, because I do think you find some really good buys on Chrono24. And it's just an easy way to search too, because I've talked about that instead of scrolling social media, I scroll Chrono24 because it's fun for me. I like looking at different things. I like finding the 3-year back catalog model that no one's talking about in any of the videos that they're posting, because they're always talking about, like, what's the newest thing from Omega, or, what's the newest thing from Timex or Hamilton. Like, those are the types of videos that people would typically make. So I really like finding those kind of gems hidden away in there that are more interesting, frankly, I think, than some of the current catalog models in some brands. Not all the time, because certainly there are current catalog models that are interesting. So bonus points if you can try it on. I will say that my Skydweller I did not try on before I bought that watch. And I don't regret that at all. Like, I have zero regrets about it. In a conventional sense, it would be probably a little big on my wrist, but I don't care because of the first two things. I was enamored about it. I could afford it, and on the secondary market at least, I had access to it. Because again, getting it from an AD without any purchase history would have been absolutely impossible to do. So that's a quick 3 criteria of what is going to be your best first watch. And there's probably more that I could mention, but I do think that those 3 will serve you well, because you're going to get all sorts of details. You're going to get all sorts of details about movements and case materials and sizes and brands and their history and all those different things. But it always comes back to, if you don't like the watch, if you're not going to use the watch, then it's not going to be a great first watch for you. Or if you're going to feel like you have to protect the thing because you're so worried about scratching it or denting it or whatever, then it's not going to be a good first watch for you. I remember getting my first watch, and it was more than I had ever spent on a single item in my entire life. I mean, it was expensive for me. And I remember at being at work at that time, where I was very much up and around, and I couldn't actually wear a watch while I was working. I could wear it kind of in between, after, before, time off, being actually in the stuff. And so I remember walking around with it, like, in my back pocket. I would have it in my back pocket all the time. And then as soon as I could put it on, I would put it on. And but I wasn't worried about it, like, getting dented or scratched or what. Like, I loved it that much. Like, I was that enamored with it that I just wore it and had it with me all the time, even if I wasn't wearing it. That's the level that, like, if there's one thing that I could wish for you, it would be to love whatever watch you end up going with as much as I loved that Skydweller. And I still love that Skydweller because it is just a phenomenal watch. And there's so much about it that I appreciate. So I wanted to touch on those because I think first you got to have, like, a couple criteria in there that are specific but also general enough. Because, as soon as you start getting into people trying to tell you, like, well, you should avoid these three brands, or you should, like, I'm not a big believer in that. There's no doubt in my mind that there are some people who have negative experiences with whether it's the watch itself or the company, like from a service perspective. Yeah, I know those stories are out there, but I'm not here to tell you what not to buy. I'm here to kind of give you a guide for like how to make the decision of what to buy, because I think that's way more important and interesting. So I want to talk now about some actual watches that if I was going to restart collecting today, like I'm wiping the slate clean, I'm getting rid of my whole collection, and I was kind of like, as I was thinking about this, I kind of was thinking that I would even get away from the blue dial theme, because that's what I do, right? Like that's my whole collection is blue dials, and they're made to be interesting and not boring blue dials, but there's variety and there's diversity within them. And so at first when I was starting to think about this, I was like, you know what, we could just do away with that. And then of course the reality sets in that like, yeah, but I just still really love blue dial watches. So I'm going to go through, I made a short list here, and I'm going to go through some of them, and I'll try to offer some alternatives as well, just because I know not everyone is like crazy about blue dials, but I do think that within these models, the blue dial ones are awesome, but there are also others. So we'll just jump into them here. And my first pick, just because I do still have some loyalty to the Crown, I really do. People hate on them all the time for a whole bunch of different things, but I still love them. And so if I was restarting my watch collection today, the first watch that I would probably be looking for would be a Rolex Yachtmaster 40. So there's a couple different versions of this. You have a blue dial model, of course, which I'm all about it still. And it's got a red little, seconds hand on it, for a little bit of pop of color. And I think the text on it as well is red. But I love the blue dial. I've said it before, Rolex does amazing sunburst blue dials. And the Yachtmaster is just such an interesting watch. If I was going for the rhodium dial, which is kind of the gray dial with like a light blue accent on it, I would probably go 37, just because I think with my wrist size, it would probably fit me extremely well, 37 millimeter. But I think for more universality, I would go with the 40. And yeah, there's just a couple really cool things about it. So I mean, first of all, you have a platinum bezel. And Rolex doesn't really do this. Again, they're pretty particular with their materials. It's mostly Rolex oyster steel and ceramic of some type, way, shape, or form. I mean, if you think about most of their models, right? Daytona, GMT, I feel like they're more sub. There's just so many that use that combo. Oyster steel and ceramic. But the Yachtmaster uses platinum on the bezel. And when you see it, like having seen this watch, it is a beautiful, beautiful watch. Like that's another thing that I think is important in a first watch is the aesthetic part of it, but it's also really well-rounded. Like you could wear it as a daily. You could wear it to go swimming. You can wear it to a dress function. And because it has that versatility, that's another thing that I think is really attractive to me in a best first watch when I'm talking about it. So Rolex Yachtmaster 40, I would still go blue dial. I would still stay true to that, but the rhodium is also excellent. Platinum bezel, it's a timing bezel. It's a timing bezel as well. So similar to what I have my Plo Prof on that I'm wearing. So it's like you can turn the bezel, you line up the bezel cap with the minute hand on the watch, and then you can time elapsed time on it. It's actually, I found it to be one of the most useful things in my collection. I also have a chronograph, and I do love the chronograph, but I think from using it for timing perspective, I use the timing bezel way, way more than I use the chronograph for timing anything. So the fact that the Yachtmaster has that is awesome. I think it's a very, very functional piece. Also has a date on it. really useful just to have. You've got, again, that beautiful blue sunburst dial, subtle red seconds hand, and you also have 100 meters of water resistance, which is really nice. Again, I want it to be versatile for you. I don't want you to be stuck into, well, I can only wear it in a formal setting at work. And now I'm already kind of pigeonholing myself into needing another watch that, can get beat up or it can be in the water, those sorts of things. So that would be my first pick. It would be Rolex Yachtmaster 40. If you have the wrist for it, gosh, Yachtmaster 2 is just epic. Like, I really, really like the Yachtmaster 2, but I understand, one, that's probably going to be too big for a lot of people's wrists, and the insanity of the dial is a lot, and I acknowledge that, even though I still love it. I do really love it. So that would be my first pick. Second pick, and you're going to see, a lot of these brands are brands that I know and love. That's just the way it is. So you're watching this video, so you know what to expect here. Grand Seiko, SBGA 375. It is stunning. The finishing on it, you get Zaratsu polishing on the case, on the indices, on the hands. So you get this amazing hand finishing, literally hand finishing. The Rolex, and not even mention the cost on the Rolex is probably around $12K if you're looking for it pre-owned. I think if you buy it new, I want to say it's maybe a little more than that. I can't remember off the top of my head, but pre-owned, like through a secondary market somewhere, probably around 12 grand is what it'll run you for the Yachtmaster 40. So then if we go to the Grand Seiko SPGA 375, so 40 millimeter case, same case size, similar fit to the Rolex. Obviously it doesn't have like the easy link in the bracelet like Rolex does. That is an advantage of Rolex. Always, they have a really great micro adjustment system. Grand Seiko is working on one. They're starting to release it with some of their models. But yeah, so 40 millimeter case, beautiful blue dial. And the hands and indices are like cut gems sparkling off the face of this blue dial. Like, I love the look. And I think it's actually one of the reasons why I like blue dials is in the same way that a black dial on white metal has really good contrast, there are a lot of blue dials that also have that similar type of contrast. So the Grand Seiko, being as dark of a blue dial as it is, also has that level of contrast. And just look it up. I'll add an image, but look it up online. Like, look up some wrist shots or some videos, because it's just got such a great level of contrast to it. The other thing that you're getting, so all the polishing, I already talked about that. 100 meters of water resistance, so similar to the Rolex, but you're getting spring drive. You're getting a spring drive movement, and the price point on this, as I was looking, was around 5 grand. So this is one of the reasons why I do fully believe that, I'm going to talk about the other brand in a second, but Grand Seiko offers some of the best value for the money in luxury watches, hands down. 5 grand for a watch that will keep time. I think spring drive is like roughly 15 seconds a month. And do it under 5 grand is insane. I mean, the Rolex is accurate and durable and reliable, all that. Again, not knocking Rolex, but your Grand Seiko will be more accurate and keep better time with the spring drive movement, and you're talking about under half the price. So that's one of the reasons why I will continue to say Grand Seiko is the best value in watchmaking. Now, they have plenty of other dials. I do think Grand Seiko white dials are gorgeous, especially if you're looking like white birch type of vibe when you get into like some of the Evolution 9 series cases. So I would highly recommend that. Those are going to be a little pricier. So again, you can go for as interesting or not with Grand Seiko as you want. And because of the fact that there are so many dial variants, it makes it really easy to find something you like. Because you can always kind of, like, some of the Rolex models or other brands, the model lines are all very different, I feel like, in a lot of cases. Grand Seiko is not that. So Grand Seiko, it's another reason why I think it's such a approachable brand, is because you look at one Grand Seiko and it's an Evolution 9, collection watch, and then you look at another watch and it's maybe a Heritage collection watch. Yes, the design elements are subtly different, but if you're just getting into watches, you're going to be like, oh yeah, I can tell these are both from the same brand. So I do really like the design consistency of Grand Seiko. I think that's just another plus that it has in its back pocket. Let's keep going. So next brand, you won't be surprised. I already mentioned it. There's one on my wrist. Omega. It's another one we got to talk about if we're talking about a best first watch. If I was restarting my watch collection today, Omega Aquaterra 38 millimeter in blue. And this is another one where you have so many dial variants. You can do a black dial that looks very sharp. I think there's like a silver dial variant that looks really good. There's a white dial. I mean, there's tons of color options. So Omega, another reason why I think they are one of the biggest brands out there. Not only do they have that Swiss heritage like Rolex, but you also get a lot of different variations. So again, the Rolex Yachtmaster in 40, it's a great example of how, yes, you might like a watch, but you really only have a couple of options. You have the rhodium and you have the blue. They're both great options, but you don't have as many as you get with the Omega. So with this one, you're getting a 38 millimeter case. I do think you could go bracelet or strap on this. I have had the strap options in the past, and I really liked them. I know the bracelet is also great on it, so if I was going to re-get an Omega, I might do it on a bracelet just for, I mean, I guess I have one, but if I was looking at an Aquaterra model and I was restarting, I might do it on a bracelet just because, again, versatility, water resistant, can wear it dressed up, dressed down, anything like that. And then you have an 88 series, 8800 series caliber in these, 8800, 8900, which are basically like pretty much the latest in Omega. Good power reserve, very anti-magnetic, automatic winding, of course, 150 meters of water resistance, which is great. Once again, very versatile. And then another big thing that you get with Omega is the master chronometer, or METAS certified movements. So again, COSC, I believe, is +4 -6 seconds a day is the expected timing deviation on that. METAS, master chronometer, you're talking about I think it's 2 +2 -2. Rolex has a similar standard, but their superlative chronometer. So you're really getting a super accurate movement, and that has been my experience with Omega as well. That's not just a claim. I have typically noticed that Grand Seiko would probably be the most accurate movements, and then Omega would probably come after that. So just from my experience, yeah. So anyways, same thing with that watch. You're talking around $5,000. So that's why I do think between Grand Seiko and Omega, you've got two fantastic first watch options that could easily be like lifetime watches, not need another one. You could be a one watch guy or gal with one of those models, and like I say, a lot of dial variants that you can choose from that are really, really good looking. So that's my third pick. Again, if I was restarting my collection today. Let's go to the next one here. Jaeger-LeCoultre. I always have to give love to JLC. They are, I struggle to say that there's any one brand that's my favorite, but they probably would be my favorite just because they have so much good stuff to offer in their catalog. Now, I will say right at the front, this is probably a little bit more of a limited pick, right? Because it's a little bit more of a dress watch. But I would go with the Jaeger-LeCoultre Master Ultra Thin Moon. And I'm going to be really controversial for a second. For those of you who know me, I would actually go with the silver dial variant of this. I owned the black dial of it prior to having my limited edition perpetual calendar. But I do think the silver dial is probably my favorite. I know there's a blue dial variant, so that's saying a lot. I actually really love the silver dial. It just has this really spectacular sheen to it, just the way that it reflects light. It just has a beautiful color, and it's super thin. So as the name indicates, Jaeger-LeCoultre Master Ultra Thin Moon, 39.5 millimeter case size, so very wearable, and the case generally around 10 millimeters thick on that, which is really, really good. I mean, everything we've talked about so far, the Yachtmaster, the Grand Seiko, Aquaterra, you're talking probably 12 to 14, somewhere in that realm. And these are minuscule differences. You notice them when it's on the wrist, and it really becomes a personal preference as far as like which one you would prefer or not. But in terms of dress watches, I do think the JLC Ultra Thin Moon is really hard to beat. You can do it. I think it comes stock on a black alligator strap, and I think they also offer a brown one, which I also think would be equally awesome on the silver dial. It's one of the reasons why. Dress watches, I do think changing out the strap is one of the most fun things you can do with a dress watch, and it totally changes the character of the watch. You go from this like sleek, kind of like, I don't know, modern look to this with using black, I mean, and then if you swap it over to a brown strap, it really changes the character, almost to this like supple, like luxurious look and feel to it that I think would really, really do you well. So either one of those would be great. It's got the moon phase, it's got a pointer date on it, and I loved, one of my favorite details on the Ultra Thin Moon is the enamel moon phase disc. So you're not only getting a nice looking watch, but you're also getting some like handcrafted artisan work in that dial because it's enamel. So again, enamel, they take glass-based paint, they crush it in a little powder, they paint the dial with it, or the moon phase disc in this case, and then they bake it in an oven several times so that it heats evenly. They get it exactly the way they want it, and then there's like black polished stars on the moon phase disc, and the moon itself is also black polished, which just gives it a really cool little pop at the bottom of the dial. One of the coolest details on a watch that I like I say, I had the black dial version, and had it for probably about a year, I think, until I ended up trading it towards my other Master Ultra Thin perpetual calendar, and it was just one of my favorite watches. It also was very accurate, by the way. I will say that. JLC has their own in-house movement testing with the Master 1000 hours control test. So also very accurate, durable, water resistant to 30 meters, and anti-magnetic as well. So another great pick. All right, and then for the JLC, you're probably looking at around 10K. Somewhere in there. Again, that's pre-owned pricing. I think brand new you're going to pay a little bit more than that, but yeah, I mean, still very much worth it. So far we're pretty close. Like, there's not a big difference between the actual retail price on some of these and the pre-owned price. Like, you're in the same ballpark at least for the most part. Okay, next one. This is where it's going to change a little bit. Girard-Perregaux Laureato 38 millimeter. Now, if you have the wrist for it, they do make a 42. So if you can do it, pull it off. I think my wrist would probably fit a 38 better. But same thing. So stainless steel case and bracelet. Couple different dial variants. I would go with blue on this one. I think this is one where I would definitively pick blue. Beautiful, beautiful clou de Paris, or also known as a hobnail design, and basically it looks like little pyramids on the dial, like really, really tiny ones all across the dial. Now, granted, it's a machine stamp on that watch. It's not hand cut like on my Jaeger-LeCoultre, where it's actually engine turned, or like done with the rose lathe. So different, right? I mean, there's not the same level of artisanship there, but you're still getting a lot of other good stuff. So you still get 100 meters of water resistance. The rotor on it is rose gold, which looks really, really cool. Just very, very like luxurious. 42 millimeter model is about 9K, somewhere in there with box and papers. The 38 I think is actually slightly more just because they're not as popular, so there's not as many of them out there on the secondary market. This watch, however, I will say, along with our next pick, is a steal below retail. Because I think the retail pricing on these is somewhere in the 15 or 16 range. So when you're talking about getting a $6,000 or $7,000 savings on a watch like that, it's phenomenal. And it's all, I mean, GP movement. It's the 3300, I think, in the latest version of it. So you're still getting a great movement. Obviously, they just released their new in-house movement, which will be coming, I'm sure, on some of the models. But as of right now, GP 3300, same thing that I have in my 1966 Orion. Great movement, very well decorated, beveling, perlage, the whole 9 yards. Like, it's a really good looking movement. And again, you're talking about a steel integrated bracelet sports watch for under 10 grand with all the versatility that you need. Again, dress it up, dress it down, and not having really appreciated Girard-Perregaux as much early on in my journey. That's why I have this one on the list, because I do think it deserves the attention that your Rolex, your Omega, all these other brands get. People just don't typically run into GP as much, I think, early on. It's more something they discover later in the journey, which, isn't necessarily a good thing, but it is what it is. So, okay. And then last one that I have on my short list here for you, which is the Blancpain 50 Fathoms bathyscaphe. And this is another one where there are several models of this. Depending on the size that you want, they have it in ceramic, they have it in titanium, they have it in steel. I think everything from like 38 millimeters all the way up to 43 in terms of case size. But I think the couple things that I appreciate the most about this watch is, one, the movement is beautifully finished. Granted, it's mechanically applied for the most part. It's kind of like JLC, where there's some manual things, but there's some mechanical things. So, but you're still getting some, like hand work done on the movement. And then you have a huge power reserve. On some models, it goes all the way up to 120 hours of power reserve, which is really, really good for any watch, let alone a first watch. The next part is you actually get 300 meters of water resistance on many of these models. So if you don't know, the Blancpain 50 Fathoms was essentially, and there's kind of the debate a little bit about which came first, but basically it was that watch and the Rolex Submariner in 1953. So they were both released in the same year as like the initial dive watches. Like, that's what they were. And then, of course, there were different model lines that kind of sprung out and, were extensions of that. And I do like the bathyscaphe. I think the regular, the 50 Fathoms, it's obviously a great watch in its own right. I just think the design elements for me are not as exciting as with the bathyscaphe. So, like I say, that's what I would probably pick. I can't remember which variants they offer in which metal. Like, I think they might have a 38 in titanium possibly, but not in ceramic. I think ceramic is the larger one, which probably would not fit my wrist very well. But again, if you have the wrist to wear a 43, I would go ceramic, absolutely, because it is like scratch proof. It's just super, super solid. And this is another watch that, buying pre-owned, you are getting such a good deal on these. Again, as I was looking, you can find them for probably anywhere from $7,000 to $8,000 to $9,000, which they retail for a lot more than that. So, like, this would be another great pick, just to get you into something that, the history is there, the quality is there, the water resistance, like the versatility is all there. I think the only thing with these is they don't really have them on bracelet, if I'm thinking about it. It's mostly on kind of like a sailcloth type strap. So it would probably be a little more casual than some of the other watches. Not quite as dressy, but you certainly could still wear them in a dressy environment because they are great watches. So those are my picks. I mean, that's where I would go if I was restarting my collection today. And Oh gosh, I mean, I don't know. If I had to pick one, just my latest like obsession with Gerard Perregaux, I might go GP here. If I was looking for two, like a combination, I would absolutely be doing the JLC Ultra Thin Moon. With like, they're all such good picks. It's really hard to zero in on one, but I might go like Grand Seiko JLC. I might do that, or I might go Omega JLC. Like they're excellent brands, and you can't go wrong with any of them for a first watch. So I do think they will all serve you well. Now, these are all pretty reasonable options. Again, the Rolex, the Yachtmaster 40 would be the most expensive on this list at about 12 grand or so. And so I guess I'll throw in like, I don't know, just like if I had a bigger budget coming in, well, maybe I'll throw in two actually. I don't know. Maybe one isn't even really a first watch that you would find, but one that I would throw in is anything in the Vacheron Constantin Overseas collection. The third gen Overseas is stunning. It is spectacular. It is versatile. They have a blue dial, they have a silver, they have a black dial, so you have some color variations on it. And the thing that I think is important with these is they're very accessible. And they're about the same price at retail as you would get them pre-owned. And that's why I think from like, we're talking budget, right? But like, you can still get one very reasonable at a higher price point than anything that I listed, of course. So like, keep that in mind. But you're gonna be able to get one. And that's really important because, again, I talked about the accessibility being a super important part. And I have a friend that his first watch was a silver dial, well, actually kind of second, but he got him almost at the same time, was a silver dial dual time third gen Overseas. And he loves that thing. And I remember seeing it in person for the first time. And it is just like unbelievable. The finishing, the case construction, the bracelet, and they have the easy swapping of strap system. So like you literally can take your finger and release the bracelet off the case and then put a strap on that's rubber or put a strap on that's leather. So like you get all of that with it. So you get the ability to dress it down, dress it up, make it casual, make it not all in one package. And granted, again, it's more expensive. I think you're talking somewhere in the low 20s for one of those, but amazing watches and very accessible. So if you can afford one, that would be a great first watch. And another example of something where like you could literally just wear that one watch and you wouldn't need anything else. So yeah, I was going to mention Grunefeld, because I've been on this kick lately with Grunefeld. Now, you probably wouldn't hear about them unless you were maybe from the Netherlands or, I don't know, just somehow ran across them randomly. But they're from Oldenzaal in the Netherlands, and they make some of the most beautifully finished watches that I have ever seen. And it would be a treat to own one. We'll see at some point if I'm able to do that because their wait lists are often closed because it's a small manufacturer. They don't make a lot of watches every year. And so, the waiting lists were getting up there 3, 4, 5 years. And so they just closed the wait list because they don't feel right about taking someone's money and then having them wait 5 years to get a watch. So Grunefeld is a little bit more on the Grail level, I think. So that would be, if you're like a budget level above even Vacheron, that would be a highly recommended piece. I had the opportunity to see one in person recently, and I was blown away by how beautiful the aesthetic, the design, and of course the movement and finishing are. Just unbelievable. Bart and Tim from Grunefeld. So yeah, those are some brands. Those are some examples. Those are what I would be going after as my best first watch if I was restarting my collection from scratch today. So thanks for joining me. I hope that you enjoyed the episode. And again, please do like and subscribe to the video. I put out content pretty much every week. And thanks for stopping by. I hope to see you again next time. Take care. Bye.